The strangest AI billionaire story begins with a crown, a confused robot, and one extremely awkward question: who actually taught the machine? Everyone said Eli Nova built artificial intelligence, but in Silicon Valley, artificial often means humans working quietly behind a very expensive curtain. This is not a bedtime story about genius. It is more like a garage sale where someone accidentally auctioned the future. Before the billion-dollar meetings, Eli was just a kid who treated math homework like a sport nobody else wanted to watch. While normal teenagers collected sneakers, crushes, and questionable haircuts, Eli collected impossible problems and called that a personality. His parents hoped he would become stable. Unfortunately, the word stable bounced off him like Wi-Fi off a basement wall. At college, he discovered two shocking truths: machines were dumb, and cafeteria coffee could legally be called a beverage. The big AI dream sounded simple: feed computers enough examples, and maybe they would stop mistaking street signs for decorative rectangles. But examples were messy. The world does not arrive in neat folders, it arrives like laundry after a raccoon convention. Then Eli met Mina, who had the rare startup skill of saying, "That is stupid," before investors said it politely. Their first product was not glamorous. It was basically a janitor service for data, except the janitor wore a hoodie. They promised companies one thing: give us your messy digital soup, and we will return something your robot can swallow. The machine needed labels. This is a road, this is a pedestrian, this is not a suspiciously confident toaster. So Eli built a system where humans corrected machines, and machines pretended this made them independent. Classic teenage behavior. At first, the business felt too boring to become huge. Unfortunately for boredom, every AI company needed exactly that boring thing. Self-driving cars wanted clean data. Chatbots wanted clean data. Investors wanted clean stories, preferably with hockey stick curves and spiritual confidence. Eli pitched like a prophet who had eaten instant noodles for dinner and valuation spreadsheets for dessert. Mina handled reality, which in startup language means everything not included in the inspirational podcast version. Their first customers did not buy magic. They bought less embarrassment when their AI confused a bicycle with furniture. Soon, the garage became a factory of tiny decisions, each one teaching a machine where reality ended and nonsense began. Every click looked tiny. But enough tiny clicks became an invisible staircase climbing directly into billionaire territory. Eli loved the phrase scaling intelligence, because organizing exhausted humans to fix confused robots sounded worse on conference stages. Investors nodded. They understood one universal truth: when everyone is digging for gold, sell beautifully packaged shovels. The company grew so fast that the office chairs looked emotionally unprepared for what was happening. Mina warned Eli that speed creates blind spots. Eli replied with the sacred founder phrase, "We will fix it later." Later, of course, arrived wearing a fireman helmet, carrying 3 lawsuits, 5 angry clients, and a cappuccino. Behind each polished demo were workers deciding whether a blurry shape was a dog, a bag, or capitalism with ears. Eli rarely saw them. He saw dashboards, progress bars, and a clean word executives adore: automation. Automation became the company's bedtime blanket. Nobody asked whether the blanket was stitched by people being paid crumbs. Still, the product worked. And in tech, working is often enough to temporarily excuse looking uncomfortable under a microscope. Then the AI boom exploded. Suddenly, everyone with a laptop became either a visionary or someone selling a visionary newsletter. Eli's boring data company became sexy overnight, which proves society has a very flexible definition of sexy. Phones rang, investors called, governments called. Even people who once ignored Eli now described him as obvious in hindsight. He was invited to rooms where the chairs cost more than his first month of rent. The money arrived with applause, but also with a tiny invoice from reality labeled expectations. Now every mistake was not a bug. It was a reputation event wearing a tiny business suit. Eli told himself he was helping AI understand the world. Mina quietly wondered which world they were feeding it. Some clients wanted safety, some wanted profit. Some wanted safety, profit, and a press release that sounded like a yoga retreat. The data workers saw the contradictions first, because contradictions are easier to notice when they arrive one task at a time. A machine asked whether a crying face was anger, sadness, manipulation, or Monday. The workers chose as best they could. Meanwhile, Eli became the face of a future nobody fully understood, which is basically the job description of tech fame. Magazine covers called him a genius, employees called him intense, his calendar simply called him unavailable, silently and forever. When he became a billionaire on paper, nothing magical happened, except everyone suddenly laughed harder at his jokes. He looked in the mirror and saw the same hoodie, the same dark circles, and a much more expensive anxiety. Mina asked, "Are we building intelligence, or building a toll booth every robot must pass?" Eli did not answer quickly. Because the toll booth metaphor was uncomfortable, and uncomfortable metaphors are just unpaid consultants with better timing. Competition appeared, promising cheaper labels, faster labels, labels so pure they practically did Pilates. Clients became nervous. If data was the new oil, nobody wanted to discover their pipeline was full of soup. Eli tightened quality checks. The workers received more rules, more pressure, and somehow fewer explanations. One worker joked that training AI felt like raising a billionaire's toddler, except the toddler might replace your manager. That joke spread faster than the official company culture memo, because jokes do not require approval from legal. Eli noticed morale dropping. He scheduled an all-hands meeting, the corporate version of bringing soup to an earthquake. He thanked them for powering the future. Someone asked whether the future came with health insurance. The silence was so loud even the servers seemed to lower their fan speed out of respect. Mina pushed for better conditions. Eli pushed for profitability. Both were right, which is the worst kind of argument. The company survived by becoming two things at once, a miracle machine and a very human mess. Then came the offer from Titan Cloud, a giant tech empire with carpets softer than most moral positions. Vera Glass did not enter rooms. Rooms seemed to rearrange themselves so she could appear inevitable. She offered Eli money, resources, and the terrifying compliment every founder secretly fears: you belong on a bigger stage. Eli heard opportunity. Mina heard warning bells. The data workers heard nothing, because nobody had invited them to the room. The deal was called a partnership, because half acquisition with emotional complications apparently tested poorly with audiences. For Eli, it meant more compute, more power, and a new title shiny enough to blind common sense. For Mina, it meant losing the company's soul one polite meeting at a time. For the workers, it meant a new boss they would probably never see, inside a building they could never enter. The announcement made headlines. Eli smiled for cameras, though his face looked like software accepting suspicious permissions. That night, he dreamed of endless blank cards floating toward him, each carrying a decision someone else had made. In the dream, the AI finally spoke. Not with wisdom, but with the confidence of a toaster giving marriage advice. It showed Eli millions of tiny corrections, stacked like bricks under his crown. Then came the twist: Eli had not only built a machine that learned from humans. He had built a company where humans learned to behave like machines, so machines could look more human. He woke up sweating, which was impressive, because billionaires usually outsource discomfort to advisory committees. At Titan Cloud, Eli received a bigger office and smaller control. The furniture was enormous. His choices were not. Vera explained strategy with perfect calm, the way people describe storms from inside very expensive buildings. She wanted superintelligence. Eli wanted clean data. The workers wanted dinner before midnight. Ambition has many time zones. Eli visited the labeling floor again, partly from guilt, partly because guilt had finally updated its software. He watched a worker correct a model's mistake with one quiet click, then another, then another. There was no applause, no stage, no crown, just attention, patience, and a wrist that probably hurt. Eli finally understood, the future had not been invented in a garage. It had been edited, slowly, by strangers. He asked what would help. The answers were not futuristic: fair pay, clearer rules, fewer impossible tasks. Eli expected a grand philosophical demand. Instead, reality asked for better scheduling, which is often how morality introduces itself. Nina returned with a plan. It was less dramatic than a moonshot, but more useful than another keynote. They changed the system slowly. Not perfectly. Perfectly is a word companies use before the lawyers arrive. Some investors complained that compassion was inefficient. Nina suggested inefficiency was a strange name for not breaking people. Vera watched the reforms with polite patience, the kind predators show when prey starts reading policy documents. Then Vera revealed the real offer. TitanCloud had not bought data first. It had bought Eli. His company was valuable, yes, but his myth was rarer: young genius, hoodie, destiny, friendly face for enormous power. For years, Eli labeled the world for machines. Now a corporation had labeled him: useful, inspiring, controllable. That realization did not make him a hero. It made him a little less asleep, which is sometimes harder. He could not undo the empire. Empires do not come with a polite return window. But he could choose what to praise, what to measure, and whose names he remembered offstage. The company still chased superintelligence, but now, at least, someone asked whether intelligence without dignity was just fast nonsense. It turns out the future is not a robot walking toward us. It is a crowd of people deciding what the robot sees. Eli remained rich, famous, and probably over-caffeinated. But he stopped pretending the crown had grown from his head alone. Because every AI miracle has a backstage, and backstage is usually messier, funnier, and more human than the demo. The next time someone says AI learned by itself, imagine 1,000 tired people whispering, "You are welcome." And the next time a founder says he changed the world, ask who cleaned the world first. Eli's story is not anti-AI. It is anti-amnesia, which is rarer and much less profitable. Because behind every machine that seems brilliant, there is usually a human being quietly making reality easier to understand.